They thought she was just another teacher. Another fresh hire the school could push around. Someone young, nervous, unsure of herself. Someone they could intimidate. Someone whose spirit they could break. They couldn't have been more wrong. Because the moment the bell rang, on her very first Monday, the moment she walked down the hallway with her neat folder of lesson plans and her calm, quiet smile, the bullies marked her as their next target. And they had no idea they had just picked the worst possible person to mess with. Miss Aria Lane, 26, soft voice, polite tone, calm eyes. Nothing about her screamed danger, but everything about her past did. Her history wasn't written on her face or her clothes, but it was etched deep in her bones, in the way she measured every movement, scanned every corner, and noticed every detail with military precision. But the kids at Ridgewood High didn't see that. They just saw someone new, someone small, someone they could crush. The ringleaders Jake, Brandon, and Lex waited until the hallway thinned out before approaching her. Jake smirked as he blocked her path. Well, new teacher alert, he said loudly. What's your name? Miss Nobody. Miss Lane smiled politely. My name is Miss Lane, and I'd appreciate it if you all moved so I can get to class. Lex laughed mockingly. Ooh, she thinks she's tough. Brandon reached out and flicked her folder, knocking her papers to the floor. Students snickered. Some pulled out their phones, waiting to record the humiliation. Miss Lane didn't move for 3 seconds. Just 3. She looked at the fallen papers, then at the boys. Then she said calmly, pick them up. Jake blinked. Excuse me. You dropped them, she said gently. Pick them up, please. Laughs echoed down the hallway. Phones recorded. Jake sneered. Or what? And that's when her eyes changed. Not angry. Not scared. Just focused. The hallway seemed to pause. Then, with a tone so calm it was unsettling, she said, or you'll learn something today. Not from my lesson plan. From me. The bullies exchanged confused looks. Jake shrugged and stepped forward, towering over her like he thought he'd already won. But then something happened they couldn't understand. Jake bent down to pick up a paper. He didn't mean to. He didn't even know why he did it. Something in her voice, her posture, her presence commanded obedience. He lifted a sheet of paper and froze. Miss Lane was no longer smiling. She was just watching him with eyes that looked like they had seen 10 lifetimes worth of chaos. Jake stood up abruptly, angry at himself. You trying to hypnotize me or something? No, she said softly. I just speak in a way that people usually listen. Brandon kicked the papers again, trying to regain dominance. Listen to this, he said, stepping forward. You're new here, and we run the halls. Not you. Students around the hallway murmured. Some felt bad for the teacher. Others enjoyed the show. Miss Lane didn't flinch. Instead, she slowly bent down, picked up her papers one by one, stacked them neatly, and said, You have 60 seconds to walk away. Lex laughed so hard he doubled over. 60 seconds. Lady, what are you going to do? Give us detention? No, she whispered. I'm going to show you why breaking strangers is a very dangerous hobby. They didn't take her seriously. They should have. The clock hit 0. Jake grabbed her sleeve and instantly regretted it. Miss Lane pivoted with a smoothness that didn't belong in a school hallway. She twisted her wrist free, stepped aside, and Jake stumbled forward, nearly falling face first. He spun back. "What?" But before he could finish, Miss Lane stepped forward, lowered her voice, and said, "Physical confrontation is step 1 in the escalation pyramid. This is your warning. You don't want step 2. Students watching dropped their jaws. She wasn't yelling. She wasn't shaking. She wasn't scared. She was just stating a fact. Brandon pushed her shoulder, a mistake he would regret instantly. Miss Lane sidestepped with a fluid motion, swept her arm upward, and Brandon's hand flew back like he'd touched fire. "What did you pressure point?" she said. "Basic self-defense." Lex charged at her, trying to shove her against the lockers. He didn't get within 2 inches. She stepped aside, tapped his knee with perfectly calculated force, and he collapsed, not in pain, but in shock. Phones kept recording. Students weren't laughing anymore. They were speechless. Jake glared, humiliated, trembling with anger. "Who are you?" Miss Lane took a breath. "I was an instructor," she said, "for people who dealt with things you cannot dream of. Before I became a teacher, I trained first responders, soldiers, and crisis teams. I have held men twice your size by the collar and thrown them against walls when they tried to hurt others." Silence swallowed the hallway. "But I am not here to fight you. I am here to teach you." She stepped closer. "Unfortunately, some lessons are learned the hard way." Jake tried to swing at her, but she caught his arm mid-air, gently, effortlessly, like catching a falling leaf. Then she leaned in. "You're better than this," she whispered, "but you choose to be less." Jake's face turned pale, not from pain, but from something he had never felt before. Respect, fear, reality. Miss Lane released him. The bullies stumbled back. For the first time in their lives, they looked completely powerless. Students around them whispered, "She didn't even hurt them. She didn't need to. She's something else." And then the principal arrived. "Miss Lane, is everything all right?" he asked nervously. "Yes, sir. Just educating," she said lightly. The principal looked at the bullies. "My office, now." Jake opened his mouth, but no words came out. Finally, he said, "We're sorry." Miss Lane nodded. "Good. That means you've learned something." Brandon swallowed hard. "We won't bother you again," Lex whispered. "Ever." The bullies walked away silently, heads down, shaken to the core. Miss Lane breathed out, adjusted her folder, and continued walking to her classroom. One student whispered as she passed, "Who is she?" Another answered, "Someone you don't mess with." Behind them, the bullies sat in the principal's office, still pale, still processing their humiliation, still replaying the moment of quiet teacher dismantled their entire world in exactly 60 seconds, and every student who watched that hallway incident learned something: that day strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it walks softly. Sometimes it teaches. And sometimes it doesn't need to throw a single punch to break a bully.